Hey, I'm Dan with the Yoga Collective, and welcome to this video. I'm here with Julia. We're going to break down the Sun Salutation. So, Julia, why don't you start in Child's Pose? The traditional Sun Salutation really starts standing in Tadasana at the front of the mat, and in the Ashtanga system, that's the way you begin your practices, standing at the front of your mat, and you go right into the Sun Salutations. Some people feel like maybe that's a little bit abrupt, and so I like to break it down and put all the pieces together in the end. So we're going to take our time and explore the Sun Salutation, every pose, and we'll break it down. And hopefully, when you find some of these activations, it's going to make the pose feel better. But you never want to do too many vinyasas. You just want to find the right amount for you. Some days I could do them till the cows come home. And other days, maybe just do a few, or if there's something going on with my wrists or whatever, I'll just drop out even just the vinyasa portion. All right, so start in Child's Pose and reach your arms forward. Good, and let's do this Child's Pose with the knees together. You got your knees together, Julia, that's good. Now, how about you lift your head and we'll put a block under your forehead. You don't have to use a block, but it might be useful to see that the neck here is alongside the upper arms, okay? So then, Julie, come up onto your fingertips, scary spider fingertips, okay? Yeah, and when you do that, hug in the triceps. So you want to feel, this is the way I describe it, you want to feel like you could palm a basketball with your armpits. So there's a feeling that you're using all these muscles around the armpit to stabilize the shoulder. Shoulder's the least stable joint in the body. And then every part of the underarm, and I know underarm sometimes means armpit, but here we want it to mean every part of your arm that is facing towards the ground, we want that all to rise. So I use that Harry Potter quote of that spell of Accio, that idea that you're like pulling something to you. You want to pull the prana up out of the ground. Prana is that yogic energy. And when you do this, then maybe you can sink your hips back a little bit more and get a nice long spine. She looks real great here. So why don't you uncross those feet, okay? Yeah, good. And then plant your hands, plant your palms, stretch your fingers. And I'm going to take the block out. On an inhale, come on up to all fours. And then tuck your toes. And on the exhale, take your hips to the sky, downward facing dog. All right, so for her down dog, she has her knees bent. That's totally cool. Don't want to jam your legs straight. If they do straighten, that's fine too. If you're tighter in the hamstrings, which she seems to be because her knees are bent, then I would want her to have a wider stance. It's a bigger stretch for your hamstrings when your feet are right close together. So Julia, walk your feet a little bit further apart. Not so much longer, but just apart from each other. Yeah, good. And then instead of leaning into your hands, I think that's the tendency at first, press your hands down and forward and draw the outer hips back. So the idea is by pushing forward with the hands, you're going to make space and lengthen the spine. Good. Now feel that you're lifting your thighs, you're lifting your knees, and you're pressing those hands. Is this pretty hard? Yeah, it's hard. And you don't have to do it for too long. You always can put your knees down and take a break. Why don't you do that? Put your knees down, sit back for Child's Pose again. Be a great example to us and show that you want to find just the right amount for you. And the test usually is, can you breathe? If you're holding your breath in a pose, you're kind of training yourself to hold your breath. And instead, we want to have the feeling that like we're at home in every pose, so we can breathe and be peaceful, even if it's handstand. Oftentimes, I see students, they have all the pieces in place to do handstand. They're very strong, they have the right mobility, right strength, but they're holding their breath or they're breathing in a struggling way, and that prevents them from finding the center of the posture. All right, when you're ready, stretch those fingers wide again. And you really want to commit to those wide fingers. One of my teachers says you want to feel like you could stick a piece of pie in between each and every finger. Then inhale, come on up to all fours. Tuck your toes, exhale, hips to the sky, downward facing dog. Good. And then walk to the front of your mat, feet between the hands. Good. And take a look at your feet. You bend your knees, let your head drop. And take a look at your feet. And let's say for now, let's just have the feet be a little wider. Okay, so about hip bone distance apart. And you can rest your chest on your thighs here. You don't have to, I know so many people, they're just like, oh, I know what it looks like. I've seen the picture. I've seen the picture on Instagram. I'm just going to crank my body into that position. Instead, introduce the movement, introduce the idea of a forward fold, and then see where it meets your body. And you'll warm up and things will happen. So really let your head drop. You might even give yourself a little nod and shake with your head. Make sure your neck is nice and loose. Good. Now on an inhale, slide your hands up your shins and pull your heart forward. Okay, so she's still in a bit of a rounded shape here with her back, but we really want it to be more of a back bend. So feel like the tail ends of your shoulder blades move forward. Good, not bad. And you end up looking up when you do that. So inhale here, and on the exhale, fold in again. Good. Now press your feet and start the same pose, Ardha Uttanasana. Come halfway up, but then keep coming up. Press your feet, stand all the way up with a long spine. So some people roll up through their spine, which is okay, but it's kind of not the thing. But it's okay to do that if that feels better for you. But you're working on having a long spine and support from the core. So here she is at Tadasana. When you come to Tadasana, you're going to bring your big toes together. Okay. And maybe separate the heels just a little bit. Yeah, just a smidge. So Tadasana is an internally rotated standing pose. You want to feel that the inner thighs are moving back, which allows your tail to drop down, okay? Now reach your hands down along your sides. Reach the fingers down a little bit more actively, okay? And then rock forward just enough that you feel those quads turn on, but not your glutes. So you want to squeeze your quads, squeeze right above your knees. Now look straight to the center of your eyes and maybe pull your chin back a little bit. Yeah, take the back of your head back into my hand. Press me. Okay, now look straight ahead. Ah, not bad, not bad. Okay, so this is Tadasana. It can be real hard work, even though it seems like you're just standing there, but you're really active, reaching down and having the crown of the head rise up. Okay, now turn your palms out and really do that from the beginning of your arms. Then inhale, bring the arms wide. Stretch your arms wide and they come over the top. And as the arms go over your head, you're biomechanically inclined to look up. So do the same thing in reverse. On the exhale, take the arms back, wide, 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 and down the sides and look straight ahead. And you can do this a few times. It feels really good, and then you kind of get used to it. So inhale, arms wide and go up. So you're pressing your feet down. Your thighs are lifting. Your belly is lifting, and you look up to your own degree. And then exhale, bring those arms wide, 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 like someone's pulling on your arms. And then palms towards the thighs. Gaze to the center of your eyes. Not too bad. Now, what I'd like to do here is I'd like to go to the wall, and because I think down dog is really tricky because most people don't really put their weight into their hands like regular civilians. Unless you're an acrobat or a trapeze artist or a gymnast, you don't really put all of your weight into your hands. But yogis do, and they do really often in this pose especially. So one way we can work on down dog without having that much weight bearing in the hands is to take it to the wall and do a pose called puppy dog. So Julie, why don't you just take a couple steps over here, and we'll leave the mat where it is. And then you're going to put your hands on the wall at about the height that your shoulders would be, or your height your hips would be. Bend your knees. Now let's get those feet parallel, okay? Good. And walk a little further back. So you're probably going to have one foot a little bit on the mat. Good. Okay, you can lower your hands down maybe a little bit more. That's too much. Half that. Good. And the idea is that we don't want to hang and have the shoulders collapse. Still that same work you did in the first pose of hugging the triceps in, feeling the center of the armpit lift, and then bend your knees a little bit. Draw the upper thighs back so your waist gets real long. And there's this kind of fun thing to do here where when you're in this pose, then you just bend one knee and you can pull the opposite hip back, and then you can switch back and forth and you get a nice side stretch. You're learning to stretch your spine, and you're learning to press your hands. Spread those fingers. Yes. Good. You want to feel real wide in your upper back. And feeling that the rib cage is rising up to the shoulder blades. This is fantastic. I love this pose. I like this pose maybe, down dog is really nice, but it's an acquired taste. This you might like right away. And then after you've done it for a little bit, we'll go back to the mat and we'll see how it goes. It might change because you've done this. You're really liking moving and grooving around. Now try to pull both hips back evenly. Good. And maybe don't let your head drop. Just have the ears alongside the upper arms. Great. And then you can come on up and walk in towards the wall. All the way up. Yeah, stand on up. Okay, so come back here to Tadasana on the mat. Step over here and face the front. Feet together or feet hip bone distance. You're really going to discover what's best for you. And bring your hands to your prayer at your heart. Okay, so when we come to the Tadasana at the front of the mat, we may chant Om. It's one of the classic things to do in yoga. It's in the Yoga Sutras, is to meditate on Om. Okay, so we're going to bring those hands to prayer, dip the chin, then take a nice inhale. Surya Namaskar A, the Sun Salutation. Inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Reach up and look up. Get real long. Reach. And then on the exhale, start to fold, but keep lifting your belly. You might bend your knees if your low back is tender, and you fold all the way forward. Hands can go on the shins or fingertips to the floor. Then inhale, halfway up, hands up the shins, or you crawl into your fingertips. Exhale, hands back down to the mat, and step back to upper push-up position. And let's have her pause and plank. Okay. Respread your fingers, inner hands pressing. Fill up the space between your shoulder blades so you kind of dome, no, higher, not lower, up here. Dome that back. Higher, lift. Put the knees down. It's a great idea. Great, cross your ankles. Okay, and maybe walk your hands back just an inch or two. Okay, bring your hips forward a little bit more. Okay, here we go. You're going to slowly lower down. You want the elbows, when you bend them, to stay over the wrists. So send your chest forward as you bend the elbows, and then you might lower yourself down like that. Okay, so why don't you scooch back onto the mat here? It seems like you aren't quite on the mat. Scooch back a little bit more, and then you can lie down. Okay, and uncross the ankles once you're all the way down. Okay, so the hand position for Cobra, okay? Her hands are maybe a little bit too far forward, so walk your hands back a little bit. All right, we want the elbows over the wrist, as long as it doesn't bother your wrist. You know, this is a lot on the wrist for some people. So if you need to have your hands forward a little bit more, it's okay. There's all kinds of Cobra poses, but the way that I learned, and I think is really good, is to have your hands far back as long as it doesn't bother you. Now put your forehead down on the mat. And press the toenails, all of them, into the mat. We don't want to squeeze the butt cheeks together. You want to feel that your glutes release and your inner thighs roll up a little bit. Okay? So now, as you inhale, draw your shoulders back as you press your hands. Come up a little bit for Cobra. Good. And then exhale, lower down. And what happens to a lot of people is their hands start to change. They cup their hands, or try to keep your inner hands flat. Let's do a couple more. Inhale. Press the hands and feet. Pull your chest forward. Shoulders back and down. Very good. Exhale, lower down. Slow. Let's do one more. Inhale, Cobra. It doesn't matter how high you come up. You only have to come up a little bit if you wish. And keep working on pressing those feet down and making your legs real long. And then exhale, lower down. So I noticed that she was straining her chin forward a little bit too. You can let your head drop even when you do Cobra and look down at the top of your cheeks. If you stick your chin forward, it shortens the back of your neck and can disturb your nervous system. So how about one more? All right. Inhale. Come on up. Keep your gaze down. Good. Exhale. Lower down. Okay. Now tuck your toes. Reach back through your heels so your knees and some of your thighs are off the mat. And then here, you might press right up to upper push-up, but don't do that yet, Julia. Instead, with Julia, I think maybe she's going to be happier to push up to all fours, your hands and knees. So untuck your toes, and when you come up, you're just going to keep your knees on the ground, okay? So inhale up to plank pose, and then tuck your toes. Exhale, hips to the sky, downward facing dog. Okay. Inner hands pressing. Fingertips giving a little gentle squeeze. She's drawing those hips back. Okay, inhale, gather your momentum. Draw those hips back. On the exhale, come up high on your tippy toes. Bend your knees and look forward more from the sternum than from the chin. The bottom of the exhale, take a walk or a soft jump to the front of your mat. Ooh, dainty. Inhale, halfway up, hands slide up the shins. Do the little back bend. Yes, that's right. Exhale, fold in again, bow. Now do the same back bend, this time all the way up. Inhale, press the feet, sweep the arms up, reach up and look up, and exhale, bring those arms down and hands to prayer. Tadasana. Like ta-da. All right, so it's top of the mountain. Okay, the mountain pose. Take a look at your feet. Check those feet out. See if you want to make any changes. You can also like lift up your toes and spread your feet. So I'm just going to guide you through one more. When you lower down, try to stave off collapse. See if you can put your knees down, but try to keep your belly active. Okay? Here we go. Look straight ahead. Inhale, sweep those arms up high to the sky. Exhale, fold slow. Fold in half. Keep lifting up those thighs. Inhale, halfway up, heart forward. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to upper push-up position. Lower your knees down first, then lower down. Good. Inhale, cobra. Press the tops of the feet on the mat. Good. Exhale, lower down. Now you're going to press up onto your knees. Inhale, up onto hands and knees. And then exhale, tuck your toes, hips to the sky, downward facing dog. And normally you stay here about 5 breaths, but we'll just move on. Inhale, draw the hips back. Exhale, step or jump in front of the mat. Inhale, halfway up, heart forward. Exhale, fold in and bow. Press down through the feet. Inhale, rise on up. Sweep it up. Look up. And exhale, bring those arms around the side and hands to prayer. Good. High five. You did it. Thank you. Have a great one. Namaste.